Welcome to Built to Win, the podcast created to help you level up your business game by developing a success mindset made for the long run. In this episode, Neora's Dave Fleming talks with Nicole Weigel, a licensed psychotherapist, trauma specialist, and top-performing area marketing director at Neora, to talk about the unexpected intersections between therapy and direct selling. Nicole reflects on how personal development, especially through books like The Slight Edge, helped her bridge clinical expertise with entrepreneurial empowerment, transforming her approach to healing and leadership.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Built to Win. This episode is going to be really insightful and probably really meaningful for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. I have a very special guest with me today. Nicole Weigel is a licensed psychotherapist, experienced in trauma, cognitive behavioral therapy. She's also an area marketing director at Neora, and consistently one of the top 10 product sales leaders in the company. So a lot going on. And Nicole, it is awesome to have you here on the show. Super excited to talk to you. And for the people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you and where do you live? Tell us about your family. Like, let's get to know Nicole a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. So first of all, thank you for just, having me. I love the Built to Win podcast and I love what it stands for. So it's really an honor for me to be here. So thanks. I'm Nicole. Like Dave said, I currently live in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania with my family. My family consists of my husband. We have been married about 8 years, together around that 10 mark. He's super fun, and always kind of in the way, like if I'm a little more quiet, a little more, because I can go in that either way, he brings out my fun side, if there's a fun side. And then I have 3 kids, 21. I have a son who's 21, a daughter who's 18, and a son who is 16. And my son, my oldest is local, but my daughter went to college this year, 1,082 miles away in West Palm Beach, Florida. So it's been a year of change, and that too has just been something that to navigate in a healthy way.
Are you from Pennsylvania? Is that where you're born and raised? Or are you like so many people, like you started somewhere else?
Originally, I'm sorry, but originally I'm from Ohio, which is just, right on that western border where it's kind of Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. So I grew up 45 minutes from downtown Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a very hub of, it's the Ohio Valley. So my grandparents immigrated from Italy and settled there with all of so my maiden name is DeCesar. And so you got like DeCesar and DeCarlo and DeGregory, and you just got all of that. I kind of grew up in a really ethnic kind of wonderland between Greek and Italian. And there was always lots of food and lots of family and lots of loud. So yeah, it was.
That's good.
Yeah, it was good that way.
Yeah. I know. I think a lot of people, like, especially I grew up out west. And so a lot of people maybe don't realize, people that grew up where I did, like, they don't realize that Ohio and Pennsylvania actually are like share a border, and how like Pittsburgh is actually closer to cities in Ohio than it is to like Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of fun. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Like your background. You're a psychotherapist and a direct seller.
And you wouldn't necessarily think that in my world that wouldn't necessarily have blended. And it's funny. So when I was younger, my mom was in business for different things. She owned a fitness center when I was little, and she owned different things. And I grew up watching it, and I was like, I never want to own my own business.
Okay.
Ever. Yeah, I just didn't want the hassle, and I didn't want just the responsibility of business ownership. So what I did know, I was in 8th grade, and I was like, I figured out what a therapist was, and I was like, I want to do that. And it was something really early. I knew early, and I remember my aunt saying, I was going for my bachelor's degree in psychology, and she's like, oh, people do that when they don't know what they want to be. And I remember being, no, that's what I want to do. And and it was always just a really clear trajectory for me. And I never had to like ponder what I wanted to do with my life. I say that, but like the 12-year-old and the 18-year-old and I went and got my master's kind of, maybe I worked for like a year in juvenile justice and then went back and got my master's. And that 24-year-old didn't really go, what happens when you're 50? And I don't think I ever really looked at trajectory of what happens when you've done it for so many years. And just kind of a little of the toll, but just also, well, what else? So, yeah, so I got my master's in 98. I know it really ages me. And I worked in various facilities. And like I said, juvenile justice. For some reason, I love adolescents and I think they're a lot of fun. I think they're direct. And I wasn't the therapist that was just like, I'm going to sit there and just ask you how you feel. Like, that was just always so cliche to me. I just needed a really real, and adolescents are kind of how I did that. And then once I had kids, um, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of really early experiences that in leadership that just I don't know, they were really beautiful in different kind of settings. Like I said, at Vision Quest I worked for, and they were a different company, but really they had some really core values about loyalty and things like that that were just I mean, they really helped my trajectory of work ethic and just being exposed to different things. And yeah, and so then when I had kids, I decided that I wanted to go into private practice. So now I've been in private practice. My son's 21, so I would say about 17 years.
Okay. So 17
Yeah.
years. And I want to go back to, because you said you eighth grade, you just knew that you wanted to do this. Like I'm curious, like I think a lot of our listeners, including myself, sometimes wonder like what I'm going to be when I grow up. And so like was there something that happened, or like how did that click for you that you just were like, that's it. Like that's what I want to do.
Well, I mean, my parents, definitely they divorced when I was young. And I think I was always it was really odd to me how at peace I was with it. And I just remember being really little and going, you know what, mom? I think I was 6. And I was like, I just don't think this is working with you and daddy. And yeah, I don't know. I just had this, early on, I just saw things pretty clearly in some ways. And so when I found out what a therapist was, I was like, yeah, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be. Just because it's just how my brain thought. And it wasn't necessary. It was always about problem solving. It was always about trying to kind of be happy and listen to my friends, of course. But I wanted to do more, and I didn't want to just listen for listening's sake. I wanted to, help offer solutions, offer strategies and things like that. And I just needed additional training to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you went into,
Yeah.
okay, so private practice, 17 years of private practice. How long have you been with Neora?
8.
8. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
right around the time that you got married.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty instrumental in my Neora journey, actually. And so I
Okay,
think what
say
happened though
more
is,
about that, because
yeah, okay,
that's not
okay.
always the case. And I'm not going to call anybody out there that's listening, but direct selling, the statistics in the United States is like 75%, 77% are women. Um, and I won't say that men aren't super supportive, but there are cases, there are times when men aren't super supportive of this kind of a business. And so I would like, tell us all about that.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I have to go back a little further. So, I did get divorced in 2014, and so I have a best friend who's a chiropractor, and we were so it was like this trajectory, right? So I'm going along in private practice, and then I get divorced, and I'm 40, and I'm just looking at my life, going, what's going on, right? And so we bought a building in the midst of time, and we're going to now become spa meets wellness. And so we buy this building, and it's supposed to be, just seamless. And we ran into zoning issues with the after we purchased it because we weren't terribly good business owners. We're good practitioners. We're not terribly good business owners. So we didn't do our homework. There was just so many things that we just did wrong that so now we have this building, this huge mortgage, and and uh, and we can't be what we're supposed to be because the zoning doesn't allow us to be it. So it's
Oh
just my
no.
business and her business, which is very pivotal into why I did something in addition. Because as a therapist, you aren't supposed to be a human. And, it can't be about money. It has to be just about helping people. And you can't create dependency with your clients. Obviously, you want to help them move on, but then there is financial pieces attached. And you just believe that more people will come. And that's kind of how it works. And I always agreed with that. But then I had this enormous mortgage that we took on for this building, right? So
Hmm.
along that trajectory, so I'm going along and I meet Andy and things like that are happening, kind of personally, professionally. Well, then over here, I have this really, I'm 43 now. And so not now, then. So I had this problem with my skin. I had this darkness that was here and a darkness that was here. And I had gone to the dermatologist about it. I had gone to, I spent $1,500 on a Obagi. I'm not throwing anything out there, just nothing worked. And I tried microdermabrasion. I tried chemical peels. I did everything my esthetician told me, everything my dermatologist told me. And they were just kind of, well, that's really hard to treat. And it really just doesn't, and like that voice, right? Where they're just minimizing it and just being like, well, there's not much we can do. And it was embarrassing because my son would be across the pool and he'd be like, Mom, do you have a mustache? And I know as silly as that, whatever, it was definitely humiliating, right? Where I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it wasn't just vanity, it was definitely like it affected my confidence. And so, and I would be in session and people would be like, what is this on your forehead? Like they could see the darkness. And I'd be like, this isn't what we're here to talk about, but okay. So I got tattooed gray concealer and thought I was done. And then one day I saw a post. I didn't see the post. My husband saw the post. He went to school with someone who was in the newer business, and there was a firming cream before and after pic, right? And he's looking at his
Uh-huh.
phone, he's scrolling, and he's like, don't you complain about this? And he said, I do. What is that stuff? And so right. So I'm going along professionally. And then personally, I reached out and she was just basically like, well, yeah, you can buy this, but it's a better deal if you get the kit that has skincare and wellness and it lets you sell. And I'm like, I am not selling anything. Like, you got to be kidding me. But I like a good deal. And so literally it was just so I start using the products, right? And then um the business is really tough. Like my practice is fine, but co-owning the business is tough. And she was like, "Well, just put it on the shelves. Put the products on the shelves." And I was like, "Oh, I can put the products on the shelves." Put the products on the shelves. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing
Hmm.
happened. And in the psychotherapy world, you can't really sell to your clients. It's unethical,
Right, right.
right?
Those
So
those those
it's a
worlds those
very
worlds can't collide.
they can't collide, right? And we did have
Yeah.
a business, we did have, the wellness aspect, but it was a very careful. So I, what happened was in about 3 months, the darkness lightened, and within 6 months, it was gone. And so I was blown away. I was like, I need these products in my life. I don't know what's in them. And how is this product that I'd never heard of, the thing that solved my skincare solution when nobody else could? And thousands upon thousands spent when nothing else could. And so I just I was enamored and I was like, well, I have to be able to afford this monthly. And I was newly divorced and took on this huge second mortgage to this business. And so things were super tight. So I just was like, okay, well, I need to share with people because girl code dictates that if something works, you share it. And so that's what I did. I just started sharing it kind of on social media, but real lightly. Because at that point in time, I had 400 people on my Facebook page. I never opened Instagram. And I only shared like pictures of my kids. I didn't really do much on social media. So it was definitely a new, right? And
Hmm.
so what happened was I continued to do the projects, and my husband, he's always a really big supporter of what I do and things like that, but he was um he we were kind of life things were happening, and he asked me to marry him, and we were planning a wedding and all of that things were happening, happening. So the little bit of the newer business I did at the time kind of dwindled a little, and I wasn't terribly coachable. So yeah, I just was somebody who probably did everything wrong, right? Like show up, nope. My kids have a thing. Go to conference, nope. It was all like nope, 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 nope.
Right.
And I just said no to all these different things. And I was just unhappy. I genuinely wasn't. I was happy with my personal life, love my kids, love my husband, or my husband to be at the point. But personally, I was getting burnt out and I had to work so much and I was so traumatized and disappointed that the business opportunity didn't do what we were supposed to do. And it just created a lot more burden than help. And so we'd gotten married. And so my mentor, she earned the trip to Cancun. And she said, hey, listen, my husband can't go. I want you to come with me. And I was like, I didn't even know her very well. And I was like, really? And she's like, listen, I think it'd be great. I think you need a break. I think you could use, just, and I could, I like the company. I like to get to know you better. And I was like, oh, and my husband was like, listen, if you don't go to Cancun, I'm going. And I was like, okay. So here's the thing. When you become a brand partner with Neura, they send you the kit. And there was this book that I'd had for a year and some now that I just threw in my bottom of my whatever. It's called The Slight Edge. You might have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to Cancun and I know Jeff Olson's going to be there. And I'm like, well, crap, I never read the book. Was there a test? Like, I don't know. Like, I was like worried that people were going to ask me about this book that I'd never read. So on the plane, I start reading The Slight Edge. And that is genuinely when my life changed. When I started reading The Slight Edge and understood that there's a whole world of personal development and not self-help out there, it was the first book I'd ever read that combined everything I knew clinically to the rest of the world. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was this light bulb. And I kept talking about the book. And I remember Beth being like, yeah, it's a good book, Nicole. And I was like, no, you don't understand. And it was just like, it just kind of lit everything up and connected worlds for me instead of making me feel so siloed for so long. It was this aha moment. And that's kind of when everything changed.
How does that work? Like personal develop and direct selling? Because we've talked about that before on Built to Win. Like that's an integral part of what direct selling really is, because we're not, people are learning new skills, they're learning things about themselves. Like there's a lot of learning that goes into direct selling, successfully direct selling. And so
right.
So in your mind, like how do those two things kind of come together? Is it like
yeah. So if you would have said, hey, Nicole, we have this position open, direct selling, do you want it? I would have been absolutely positively no. It was simply because the products worked for me and I felt compelled to share them. So that's kind of for me where it started. When it started opening up the world of understanding personal development and understanding that we're not just going from deficit to baseline and then stopping, like that book, and then all the ones all the ones I recommended, The Gap and the Gain, and You're a Badass, and Think and Grow Rich, and right. It's all about, well, here's baseline, but then what? I never thought, then what? And without direct selling, without Neura, without that, it would have been, I just didn't know there was more. And it's sometimes we're so deterministic in life that we're just so, well, life's hard. Oh, it's a tough time. But the brain is going to attract that very thing. And I never understood it. See, I understood cognitive behavioral therapy, which states, if you don't like how you feel, it's not necessarily like your feelings are valid, but they're probably because you have this event and then you have a belief about the event and then you have a feeling, right? That can be rational and irrational. And I understood all of that very, very deeply and very well, but I didn't understand how the law of attraction kind of overlaid it, and how not only did that be something that was potentially unhealthy or potentially causing you to have depressive feelings or unhealthy feelings, but how you attracted it then. Had no idea. And so that world was just so amazing to me. And then when you overlay it into helping people feel better, because that's Neora's mission, is make people better, look better, live better, feel better. It just gives you from somebody who was kind of burnt in the, deficit to baseline, it allowed you to kind of overlay helping people in a way that's just very beautiful, very organic, and without walking them through their deepest, darkest traumas first. So I was very like, I love this. And I really do. I love what I love what they stand for. I love their ethical, how ethical the company is, how innovative the company is, how they're just genuinely behind everything, really good people. Because I could not spend 8 years of my life and take the time away from my family, and do the things, that direct selling kind of requires you to do to grow without that piece. I had to be kind of, and it was very serendipitous. Like, it was very much a God wink that New York came along. I do think it's like a mirror at times where there's so many moments where you're like, nobody wants this. Nobody or you. Talk to me about that. Or fear comes up, right? So it's easier to say nobody wants this. It's easier to say, I don't know anybody, I can't sell, versus I'm scared to stand behind something that potentially has some negative connotations in some circles. It is something that, and you're standing alone. You're not behind a company. You're technically you're with a company, but it's you and being a distributor, right? And so you're technically, it's your words, and you will get people, the naysayers. But I think that instead of seeing it as, it's an opportunity. And I always felt like if people were at least telling me the objections, I had an opportunity to present my why as to, because I'm not going to be aligned with something that's not good. I'm not going to be aligned with something that doesn't work. I'm not going to spend my money and my time on something that doesn't have, efficacy. And so if you tell me why you don't think so, then you're giving me an opportunity to explain to you, at least from my perspective. And we can agree to disagree, but at least you understand like kind of where I'm coming from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cause I think that's the question that people get when they go into direct selling, which there are a lot of people in direct selling, by the way. Like, there's like between 15-20% of American households are in direct selling. That number is pretty consistent around the world too. We kind of talk about that sometimes on this podcast. But then you also get the flip side, like people saying, this is great, I love this, this is like done so much for me and my family, this is open things up for me personally to grow as a person. And then you get the flip side and people are like, why would you do that? Like, why would you like they're like, why do you think that is? Like, why are people like that? Like, why do they, this is like, this is
I
such an
think it's
easy, this
that
is such a
scarcity
simple question
mindset.
with no simple answers.
I think it's a scarcity mindset. I think we're trained to have a scarcity mindset. We're trained to protect ourselves from getting disappointed. We're trained to look at the negatives, because it's constantly being flooded. And it's not very often that you're flooded with hope, or that you're flooded with like, of course we can make this happen. You have to go kind of looking for that lesson, or that train of thought. And it's certainly not, you have to look for it. And so I think that people don't know to look for it, and they're taught to be skeptical. And there's so many things that, like, let's be honest, with AI and, Photoshop and things like that, and you don't even know you can trust your eyes anymore. So I do feel like some of that is understandable, but I also don't want to live in a fear. If I have to choose between living in an environment that's going to be fearful, or if it's going to be, I'm constantly thinking people are going to pull over the wool over my eyes, well, then that's what's going to start happening for me, right? Or if I'm just going to assume most people are good and they mean the best, even if their actions are, then I
Yeah.
think that then I'm going to attract those very things, right? And I think the more we're able to, whatever venue people use to get there, and I think it's why with Neora, why so many of us, are close, or because we're not about competition, we're about community. There's nobody in various other organizations that we couldn't call each other and be there and be like, oh, I could use your help, or I could use an idea. And we just need that type of community globally. And so I think, it's why Live Happy exists. I think, trying to get that global kind of community happening. And sometimes in my case, it was direct selling that brought me to that community and that greater perspective that I would have not had. And even, in terms of my career and the trajectory it's taken, I'm just so grateful that I have another option, and then I don't have all of my eggs in one basket. And the sky's the limit sometimes with direct selling. So that's super fun. And the more you help other people win, the more you win. There's just good about that. It's hard to not get excited about it, to be honest.
If someone came to you and said, okay, I'm thinking about joining a direct selling company, and I've heard good things about direct selling, I've heard bad things about direct selling. What advice would you give somebody who's looking at doing something like this?
I'm such a New York girl, so I have to um I would want to make sure that they knew people that were in it and that were winning, right? And so because I think so many times with direct selling and MLMs, it's just it has there has been not so good stuff attached. Not that I even understood that. Comp plans where they didn't make money, that's just bizarre to me. So I don't have that knowledge. So I'd want people to make sure that they knew somebody who was winning, and not just I got in early and this is the only people who, and you're spending a ton of money. And it's a flooded kind of, or some things like I love Pamper Chip, but I only need so many stones. This is me, like I
Yeah.
only need so many bags. And so I think I'd want something that I knew people were winning, that people were that was gonna be, what do they call that? Like consumable. And
Yeah.
so, and then I'd want something really clean, and I would want something that had the promise from its co-founder and CEO that they weren't going anywhere. So good luck in finding that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty good list. That's a
Yeah.
but I think
Good luck in finding
it's
that.
reasonable.
I mean, I know of one, but
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and post your link in the comments.
yeah.
I agree. Like, people have had bad experiences with direct selling companies for a number of different reasons, and I believe them. Um, and I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think that they just don't necessarily know what to look for in a good direct selling company, because I mean, let's be honest, there are companies that don't live up to the hype. There are products that don't live up to the hype. There are people in direct selling that don't live up to the hype. And
Yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you had a bad experience in direct selling, like, I don't blame you for believing that direct selling isn't great. But I think that, like so many things, like therapy, like your
Oh,
experience with direct selling is not limited to one event. It's not limited to one
really
thing.
not.
So
It's really
yeah,
not.
like,
The fact that we have the expectation in our core commitments to do personal development each day. And even if you don't have a company that has, that, I would highly suggest starting with Build to Win podcast is great. I would say that there's just elements of whatever you can do for your personal development, whether you're listening, whether you're reading, whatever you are in the car, spend that time. Because there's a lot of times all I'm doing is surfing for music and I'm not finding anything that resonates. So why don't I throw on a podcast that's going to help me grow, help change my mindset, help challenge my mindset? Because I think if not, we just stay so stuck in our current beliefs that our world never can become any bigger and any better. And we don't understand that it's limitless. We just feel like there's just a ceiling over us. And I feel like this had been my venue for understanding that ceiling is just, there isn't a ceiling, and they aren't special. They just believe it. They just know that they can achieve things if you do the work, do the activity, but put the belief out there that then you can have whatever it is that you want. I truly
no,
believe
I
that.
love that. I love that. And I love that you said, that they're not special. Not in a negative, derogatory way, but like they're just people just like you
Yeah.
and me, and
Yeah.
people, like, they've just made a decision to lean into this as a real opportunity. I can do something with this.
Yeah. So let me go back to Cancun real quick, right? So I went there with no belief. I didn't believe I didn't believe I didn't believe those trips actually happened. Not that I didn't see them happening and they were lying to me, but I was like, well, that's for those special people over there. That's not
Hmm.
for me. I can't achieve that. I can't achieve a car bonus. I don't, how am I going to do that? Right. And I remember going to Cancun and sitting with everybody there. And part of what, I mean, and they were super kind. One person was like, "You need a drink," and they were not wrong, because I was just so whelmed, And so I remember sitting there going, "They are really great people. This is really great." But just looking at them, I was like, "Wait a minute. They're just great like the rest of us." They weren't so different or so unique that they earned this trip and they were like some kind of like I couldn't aspire to. So what woke up in me was that desire, like, and I remember, there's this meeting, they're like, "Congratulations, you're the 1% of the company that did it." And I was like, "But I'm not." And I was like, "But I will be." And that was it. I was like, "I'm never missing a trip again." Why would I? When there's this opportunity to just have these amazing experiences that I can bring my husband to, that we can just go on vacation with friends that we've only got to meet on social media, things like that. That it just the book, the ability to just pay attention and say like, "Hey, wait, yeah, they're special, but so am I." Like we're all special in our own right. So yeah, let's do this thing. It was really quite a beautiful experience, and I'm just so grateful that I said yes, because I mean I would definitely say that I said no so many times before that, and then tapped into being coachable, tapped into doing what they say and not acting. My favorite is when people come in and they're like, "Well, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to do that," when literally, I mean, arguably the most successful person in network marketing is our founder and CEO. So it's like, you're not going to do what he tells you to do. Okay, well, good luck with that. Like, why would you make it harder? Why do you want to go reinvent a wheel that he's literally saying? And Amber, and it's amazing. You guys are so good. But that they're saying, here's what you do. You show up, you go to this, you do this. There's a clear system for being successful, but people want to be like, "Nope, nope, nope, nope." And I'm like, just say yes. Just do the thing. Just do the thing, and show up, and then just get out of your own way. Really, I was so
Just
in my way the first year. Oh my goodness! I
yeah.
Looking back, I mean, I love her, but she was kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm really glad. I mean, I'm sure I'm a pain in the butt in new ways, but I'm still constantly growing and evolving, and I like that. I want to do that. I want to look back, in 20 years and go, well, she thought she knew things, but yeah, she has
Yeah.
lots more to learn. So
But
yeah,
that's life though, right?
yeah,
Like if you're like, I don't know, that full circle comes all the way back to personal development. Like I
right.
like if you're not learning and growing, like you're stagnating and you're not growing, and then you're not happy with yourself, and then you're like it just like I don't know. I
Yeah,
personally I believe like you're here on this earth to become like the best version of yourself that you can become.
I agree
That takes
completely.
growth.
I
Yeah.
agree completely. And your kids are, and for me, whether whoever it is, your kids are watching, right? And so maybe that's not your why, and that's okay. But my daughter said, "I want to go to Florida." And I was like, for school. And I remember being like, "Okay, I don't know how that's going to happen." But it was like, and she just made she had a burning desire. She made the decision, and we just took the steps. Door closed, take another step, door closed, take another. But she knew she could get there. And I don't believe that had I not 8 years ago found the slight edge, found that I think she'd be in Pennsylvania at best, and
Yeah.
unhappy in her environment because we just didn't know how to dream bigger, and we didn't understand that if we want it bad enough, there is a way.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
No, I love that. This has been awesome. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I know people are going to get a ton of stuff out of this.
I hope so.
Um,
I hope so. Yeah.
any parting thoughts? What's next for you personally? What are you looking forward to?
So, yeah. So I love sprinkling. I get to do Neora, and I get to have amazing people that I get to guide and mentor, and that's super fun. Love my customers. I still have a private practice, but I'm moving into more of a coaching program. And so I have started this program that is helping people so with dieting and this kind of body kind of constant critic in our minds. People in over 40, they have, kind of been through it for a while and not any fault of their own. It's kind of, I don't know, like the generation before us were very like, oftentimes, sadly, they attached weight and worth. And,
Oh, yeah.
we're kind of a product from some of that. And we know that we're going to do better for our generation. But in our own minds, there's still a lot of food noise. There's still a lot of inner critic. There's still a lot of confidence issues that are attached. And I've been tackling that mindset that keeps us from achieving how we would like to look because our mindset is still so stuck in some of that, weight is worth and keeping ourselves kind of small and telling ourselves we can't be this. Now we're too old, or we're too this, or we're too that, or our bodies are messed up, or our hormones are messed up. And we keep saying these messages over and over and over, and it affects how we see ourselves and affects what we do, and then ultimately affects us from not having our desired, whether it's weight or health or so I'm really kind of honing in on that the online program, and that's kind of where I've been directing my energy, is kind of creating a program for that. And so I'm really looking forward to it. It's under Nicole Marie Coaching, and I'm having a lot of fun with it to help people break that mindset and achieve the the confidence in the body that they're meant to have.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love it.
Okay.
Well, good luck with all of your
Thank you.
ventures.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing you once again in Mexico on our next incentive trip, because that's going to be super
I cannot
fun,
wait.
as always.
It'll be here soon. I'm ready to be in Mexico in February for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I know, for sure. But thank you so much. This has been great.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
All right. And thanks everybody for listening. This has been our episode of Built to Win, and we'll see you next time.
That was Dave Fleming talking with Nicole Weigel about how she combined her experience as a therapist with the direct selling industry to create new ways to help others. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you learned something from it, please share it with a friend or colleague who you think would also benefit. And if you're new to Built to Win, we invite you to go back and listen to our story from the beginning. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, please rate us and leave a review to let us know what you think of the show.